All right. Hey, everybody. Dan here. And it's been a heck of a week. Hopefully, it's going to be a heck of a weekend, too. So, I want to dig right into this and look at SanDisk. It's actually had a heck of a week. And I covered it a few times in Stock Market Mentor in our premium session. So, let's get to this. Let's get to this right now. Let me share my screen. There, consider it shared. Okay, so as you better know, like SanDisk has just been on a tear. I mean, it's made lifetimes here. So we don't need to talk about that. But what has been happening is this stock has been in really broke trend right here, traded sideways, came all the way down to a grand, came all the way down from 2,300 to $1,000. That is a heck of a retracement, like over half. So this thing got absolutely belly punched, just gut punched. And so what we got to do here is we need to wait for this stock to reset. You're just not going to see it do that. It's just not going to do that. Well, I'll put it this way. I don't think it's going to do that. With the stock like this, you really never know. But this is what I want to tell you. I'll do it this way. Okay, what I want to show you is, so this had been in a downtrend, pretty significant low here. This isn't my kind of trade right here. I'm not fixated on SanDisk. I'm fixated on patterns. And there is one pattern I'll show you that's tradable. This ain't it, at least for me. So this isn't what I looked for. Again, I don't like to be fixated on stocks. I like to run through a whole bunch of stocks and find just the pattern that I'm looking for that works for me. So you'll see this thing, it's been trading sideways. The 20-day moving average has been catching up to it. Finally, we get this kind of move. And this was just on Thursday. Heavy volume. So this was a buy signal if you're an aggressive buyer. And if you've been sitting here fixated on SanDisk, like you to put your alert there, maybe even up here, buy the thing. And now by the end of the day, you're up over 5%. Nice trade, but what looms overhead? What looms overhead is the 50-day moving average. We don't like the 50 when we're underneath it. That's exactly where the stock closed today. So this is my recommendation. I'm going to give you two of them. Okay, first of all, join Stock Market Mentor. It costs $7. All right, $7 to join Stock Market Mentor. You get 14 days. I promise you, you're going to make money in the 14 days that you're with me. If you don't make money, let me know and I'll eat a bug. Okay, so do that. $7. Come on, dude. Second thing is, this stock has to break out above the 50-day and hold. My suspicion is it may break out, but I think it's going to be kind of a fake out. No earnings are on the horizon. You look at the other stocks, okay? DRAM underneath the 50. Micron just barely above. Western Digital, not so much. Seagate, probably the best of the bunch when you really look at this, because this has had an opportunity to form a base, and now it looks like it's just kind of starting to come out the upside. So we like this. Like this is Seagate's probably the best of the bunch. I just wanted to look at SanDisk because it's got this key resistance level at the 50-day moving average. And if you're kind of new to trading or just still need to get your chart chops up, this is a real important thing for you to be paying attention to. And then SK Hynix, like I said, this was the bubble of all bubbles. You just know when SK Hynix says, "Hey, we want to go ADR and trade on the U.S. exchange and get all that money," you just knew that that was going to be the top. That's over the top, boom. And now we're down here. This thing ran like this is like SpaceX on steroids. Actually, no, SpaceX went worse, but 35% from top to bottom. So what it gets right down to is this: of everything I've shown you, be careful about this puppy on Monday. And also ask yourself this, even if it does break above the 50, how much more juice does it have in it before it's going to pause and at least make you kind of sit there for a while. So if I had to choose between the two, that would be my choice. They're different companies. Just be mindful of that. So, all right, that is all I've got for you now. And again, got to belong to my community. Okay. We got great people over there, great traders. They're going to help you make money. I can promise you that. I got Scott McGregor. He's a monster. He's been on vacation for 2 weeks. He's going to come back on Monday and be on fire. And then we've got Andy Kwong, my resident quant. He's a brainiac at options. We're doing those too. So you got to be a part of this. All right. So be here or don't be here. But if you're not here, you're in the wrong place. All right, I'll see you.